All right, I'm going to interrupt our scheduled program here to bring you a very special announcement. We now have a Discord server for this YouTube channel, as suggested by our very own Squidinator193, also known as Squiddy. I built this as a place for us to grow our little niche community, for everyone to collaborate, show off their projects, or even ask questions and get to know each other. There will be a link in the description. Come on by and say hi. I will be in there as well. So if you ever just want to chit chat or ask questions, I will be around as well. So hope to see you all there, and onward to the video. Hey there everyone, and welcome back. We are at episode 9 in our little journey here. And today we are gonna, first of all, fix our problem when changing our password. But more importantly, we are going to introduce keyboard input. We're going to change up our menus so that instead of just typing our options 1, 2, or 3, we're going to use our keyboard to actually navigate the menu and select our options. It's going to be exciting stuff. So real quickly, it's actually a really simple mistake on why the change password function was not working. We need to get rid of this here, the right line. Just make it right. The reason for that is right line adds a line break. So there's an extra character at the end of the password, which is why it would brick the account so they couldn't log in. And let's go ahead and change the password on Bob's account. Password updated. All right, there we go. So now that works. We can change the password and it won't brick the system. So just get rid of right line, just turn it into right. We need to just dive right on into our little update here. It's going to be a little bit, so bear with me. We need to change our menu function. We're also going to need to change the admin dashboard, as well as introduce a new function, which is going to basically handle our keyboard input. I think I'm going to go ahead and move this down here with the other menu. And we're going to make a new function called navigate. And we're going to have 2 arguments inside. It's going to be options and actions. For menu, we need to change it up a little bit. So let's just do the normal menu first. We are just going to delete all of this. And actually, I think we're going to want to move these above navigate. So navigate should be at the very bottom now. Okay, so in menu, we're going to change this so that it no longer just prints out all of the options. Instead, it's just going to store data for navigate to use. So we're going to actually create a table. We started kind of working with tables a little bit last episode because we were running iPairs. Let's say for this right here. iPairs. Whenever we run with or use iPairs, there are tables involved in some way. And that's because of file system. File system returns tables. Even though it may not seem like it, we have already worked with tables. We're going to call it local options. And I'm making it local because each of these menus are going to have different options. And we're going to have the same options. We're going to have login. And then inside the table, well, you have these curly braces. This defines the table. And then inside, you need to use commas to separate all of the options. So register, comma, quit. And the last thing does not need a comma. So now that we've defined our 3 options for our menu, we're going to create local actions, another table. This table is going to be a little more interesting. So it's actually going to span multiple lines here rather than be on one line. This table is going to contain a list of functions to run for each of these options. Because remember, navigate's going to call the option and the action. We're going to just go ahead and do function, and it's going to be if login, then return true and end, just all in one line. And of course, every function needs an end as well. And then a comma. So this is one table entry here. What this means, this is what's known as a wrapper. It's taking everything in between and wrapping it into its own little function. What this is doing is we are asking, is this function, it's going to run login first of all. So if login returns true, because this is going to return a Boolean value. When you call a function, or when you run an if statement with the function, it's going to ask whether it completed with a true or a false. If we look at login it returns true on successful login here. That is why we put that. So if login is true, then return true and end. So the reason why we have another return true is because at the end of all of this, with our menus and our navigates, we're going to use this return statement to actually signal to the loop that's handling our keyboard to stop, because we're moving on. We're exiting this menu and moving on to something else. We got login, now we need register. And this one's a little easier. It's just going to be register, because this function didn't return anything. So there's nothing we need to worry about. We can go and look at it. It has a return here, but that is just for the sake of this own function's use. It doesn't actually return anything beyond that to be used somewhere else. And then lastly, for our quit, this is going to be function and then return true. I'll leave a little comment here. This is to quit. And then end. And that is our table here. So we got two tables inside this function here. The bottom of this, let's do a navigate, options, actions. We might need this above everything else after all. So I'll put it back up here. My apologies for moving things around like that. Okay, so this defines our menu, our main menu. This basically puts it all together nice and cleanly for us to use. So we can minimize this, and we need to work on the admin dashboard now, which is going to be the same thing, just with the different options. We're going to do the same thing, local options, view all users, and then change user password, and then what else? View all users, change and delete account. Delete account. And then log out, of course. Very important. Now we need our local actions. For all of these functions here, let's say delete account. This doesn't return anything. Change password. This also doesn't return anything. List users. So none of these return anything. Therefore, it's actually not necessary for us to do this thing where we put this inside of a function wrapper. We could actually just call everything like by just putting it list users and then change password. So this is acceptable. However, for the sake of making things look consistent, I'm going to wrap them in a function anyway, just so we don't have any confusion. There is nothing wrong with doing this, to be clear. It just adds a little more typing. But you can do this regardless, and you never have to worry about whether you need to or not, which I think is more beginner friendly, which is kind of what this is about. So I'm going to do that, but I am aware that these aren't needed. Delete account. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Okay. And of course, you can't forget the end, and you cannot forget the comma. The comma, very important, or your program will die. And then for the log out, it's going to be the same, return true end. Because when it returns true, the menu is going to exit. That's how we will exit the loop. And then we will call navigate, options, actions. Okay. We've got these built up and structured nicely. Navigate. So this is where the bulk of the work is going to take place. So we need a new local variable called selected. And I'm just going to say 1. It's going to default to the first option. And you'll see what this does as we go. It'll make more sense. Now we need our while loop. So let's just go ahead and get that going. And I'm going to, of course, clear the screen and set the cursor position so that the menu's in the corner. It could, of course, be in the middle. That's up to you. And I'm going to print the same thing, kind of the header of this menu. Let's say select an option. And navigate is going to be used, the way it's built, it's going to be used for every menu that we have. The reason we did it this way, so that this one function can be a bit modular. You can continue to add more and more menus, theoretically an unlimited amount of menus. And this function, the navigate function, will support each and every one of them. So inside of this loop, we're going to load our tables, the ones that we made. So for I, comma, option, in I pairs, options, do. Be careful with the options and option. Option in this case is just going to be for the currently selected option in this loop, whereas options is the table inside of these functions here. Make sure you get the S in the right spot there. So if I equals selected, then we are going to put a little symbol here to signify, hey, this is the currently highlighted option. And remember, by default, option 1 is selected. So this arrow, or this, caret, whatever you want to call it, when we run login, is by default going to have login selected. And then we need to concatenate our option. And then otherwise, all of the other options need to not have anything because they are not selected. I put the extra spaces because otherwise it will not line up very nicely. Consistency matters for sure. So that's it for that. We can move on, and now it's time for our poll event. We're going to actually make our keyboard portion of this. So local event key is os.poll event key. We are waiting for an event, and we need a key. This key here, when we press whatever we press, is going to get stored in this variable. We need to actually make sure it's the right key we want. I'm thinking for this, I'm going to make the W key go up and the S key go down, and then you'll hit enter to select. If key equals keys.w, then selected equals selected minus 1, because we're going up. Now, you might notice, this is option 1 by default. It's the first option. So if we go up on option 1, won't that go out of bounds or cause some sort of problem? And if you did wonder that is absolutely correct. That would happen. So we need to add another if here to make sure we prevent that. So if selected is less than 1, then we're just going to have a selected equal. We're basically just going to have it so when you go up and you're at the top, it's going to put you down at the very bottom so it wraps. And to do that, we can just take the amount of options there are, so hashtag options, and set it equal to selected. So in this case, in a menu, there's 3 options here. So selected will equal 3, therefore quit will be highlighted. And again, this is built to be modular, so none of it's hard-coded. Depending on how many things you have inside options, it's going to work the same way. And end. And actually, just, we can do this to make it look cleaner. This is short enough to where we could make this just one line. Just otherwise this is going to be like a long and confusing looking block of code here. So if keys equals W, then we got that taken care of. Our selection will go up, or if we're at the very top, it's going to go and back down to the very bottom. Otherwise, if key is keys.s, then we need to do the opposite. We need to go down. We need to add 1. And then same thing, if we're at the very bottom already, we need to send the selection back to the very top. So if selected is greater than the amount of options there are, then selected will be equal to 1. So it'll go to the first option. Now keep in mind, this is keys with an S. Keys is an actual API where it allows us to just do keys.w, meaning the W key, or keys.s. There's more than one way to do this, and this is by far the easiest, because if it's not using the keys API, you're using the key codes. You'll have to look those up as to like what code the W key is, or the enter key, and so on and so forth. So lastly, if our key is enter, then we are going to actually do our actions. So local action equals actions selected. So what this does, actions, if you remember, is the actual table we created, actions. And then this, this square bracket signals we're accessing something inside the table. Selected can be like option 1. Selected could be 1, for example. So say we run this, view all users is highlighted, and we press enter. This is going to access the actions table here, and the selected is going to be 1, so it's going to access actions key or value 1, which is here. And it's going to run this function, list users. Now we need to create a little bit of logic here to know when to exit this navigation. We're done navigating the menu. That's why we, for menu, for the quit, we have return true. And for the log out, we also have return true. And this is how we're going to break out of these menus. If action, then, or in other words, if action is true, remember, if there's nothing, this is going to be treated as a Boolean value, either true or false. So if true, then we're going to do local should exit equals action. This is just a variable I'm creating on the spot. It doesn't really matter what it's called. If should exit, then return end. Now you might, at first glance, this might look kind of redundant. Why would I ask if should exit if I just declared should exit above this? And what this is actually doing is, if you remember, action is now treated as a function because this actions table accesses these different functions. So say we ran function list users. So we'll go up to list users. All right, it's going to run through all this, print out a bunch of stuff, and then it'll wait for our key to press enter and go. Or actually, it doesn't matter. Press any key and go. So this does not return anything. Therefore, there's no true or false. But if we just did this, we did actions, and it was selection number 4, aka this, it's just return true. Therefore, should exit is going to equal true. So if true, then return an end. So let me make sure we have a lot of ends and stuff. We're in kind of an end hell right now. So let's make sure we have ended everything we need to end. So our function has an end. Our while has an end. This is all good. This has an end here. This has an end down here. I think that might be good. That might be enough ends. Should only be 4 of them. Actually, I know what's throwing me off. I'm going to, there we go. Now all of these ends are together. Okay, so let's run this, shall we? So menu. Oh wait, you know what? 175. What's this? Ah, I messed up. I put the plural. Can't do that. Okay. There we go. We have our menu. I'm moving the cursor around. If I keep pressing S, it loops back through the menu here. If I go up, it does the same thing. So let's just enter and log in. Log in as admin, and here we go. Here's our admin dashboard. And same thing, we could cycle through. Let's delete Bob. Account deleted. Very nice. Now we go back. And we'll log out. And we are back in this menu. So let's quit, and we're free. So that, we have just upgraded our little GUI here to function as an actual, like, this should feel a lot more like a GUI because we're using a keyboard. We're not typing in our options like barbarians. So we are definitely making progress. It's getting a bit more advanced. This method is a bit more complicated than we could have done, but this is better practice because it makes it very modular. This navigate function will work with any menu you put and with however many menus you want. It does not matter as long as you have an options and an actions with every single menu. And each menu is just defined as functions here. They are their own little functions with their own attributes. Our next video, I'm going to consider that kind of a wrap up for this type of project here. Some sort of user account system with an active menu here. We need to make a user like menu so that when they log in, they have like their own space to do stuff. We also need a way to add more admin accounts and remove admin accounts. And I'll have to think, but that will pretty much be it. Maybe I'll touch on mouse input. We can do, instead of doing keyboards, we can click on our options and it'll do that. After that, we're going to be moving into turtles to do some more in-game stuff and how we can interact with the Minecraft world. So I hope you look forward to that, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.